businesses are looking for, reliable suppliers who not only provide the product but services. And so one of the things that came out of that period of time, and it's kind of funny to think about it now, was, well, how do you actually sell this product? You typically sold this product with a maintenance contract. Okay, here's the amount of the product, here's for the product, and you're going to pay me 20% a year for maintenance. What's that mean? Well, as we change the product, or it's operating on different infrastructures, databases, or there's different changes in operating systems, we will update your software for you so that you as a business don't have to do it and don't have to bear the burden of all that infrastructure to keep people up to speed on how these software products evolve. And so that model became quite an interesting model. So the next thing that came out of that marketplace was this new business model, which had some form of recurring revenues. And those recurring revenues initially were maintenance revenues. You sold some product for a license, and then you would pay some maintenance. Well, over time, we started evolving that model to say, well, rather than saying a one-time, license charge and maintenance charges that you had to renew every year or 3 years or whatever it might be, let's go to a subscription model. And that emerged this thing called SaaS, software as a service. And that subscription model would include, of course, a license and some maintenance. And we could deliver that in a business form model, which as an investor gave you visibility. One of the things that distinguishes the software industry from many other industries is you typically have more visibility on what indeed, the customer base is looking for, because they'll sign longer term contracts, and you'll have the ability to utilize, that visibility to actually enhance your financial position, invest more in the product development, and in some cases, use that visibility to actually to put different amounts of different capital structures on those businesses, so you can now grow those businesses more effectively. So there was a whole lot of things that were happening in that period of time that created what I'll call a more stable business that you see today. 17+ trillion-dollar market, growing still, in mid-teens type areas. And it's because we have made some major modifications to a business model that started off as a license and maintenance model.
Look, it's fascinating, and in retro perspective, it's such a compelling story, and you are where you are for a reason. But one thing, Robert, that I find surprising, because I was with BCG in the 90s, and I, by the way, founded my first company in 1999. It was still pre the dot-com
Mhm,
crisis. You did the same, but in the year 2000, where
mhm.
most of the entrepreneurs who were not successful decided to go back to Wall Street, and
Right.
you went on and came up with the idea of Vista. In these circumstances, why have you been so confident to go and set up your own company after leaving a well-paid job with Goldman?
I think again the insights that I garnered as an engineer when applied to enterprise software, the thing that I noticed, like you said, when I went to Goldman Sachs and I had a great opportunity to work with some great companies, which were my clients, Microsoft, Apple, eBay, Texas Instruments, Hewlett Packard. These are all kind of storied, Yahoo, all storied businesses in that part of the phase of technology growth. But I noticed that they all approached everything, differently. Things, the way they built their sales teams, the way they developed, product, the way that they went out and they maintenance that product or maintenance their customers. All of the things that I looked at, I said, when I looked at some really, strong businesses, they have started to standardize processes for training and development and hiring people and product development and pricing and all those sort of things. I said, if you took some of these standard procedures and operationalize the standard procedures and then apply them to, irrespective of the size of the company, a $30 million company or $1 billion company, you could actually create improvements. And that's what basically gave me the wherewithal and the idea to say, we should create a group. In this case, it was a value creation group that has a set of subject matter experts. I have almost as many people in that group as I have in the investment team, who really focus on driving operational improvements in businesses.